There we go. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Hello there, Richard. I don't know if you managed to catch Ian. Still, he was just starting to message. Ian, what have you had? What have you had,
Nothing,
Ian? What
nothing, nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Is there nothing you can actually tell us then?
Nothing I can tell you at all. Nothing I can tell you at all. Yeah. That's what you call stitched up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about that one later.
It's like 3, 2, 1, and then you started. It was like a fucking game show in England.
The audience is just lucky we've all got our clothes back on.
Yeah,
well,
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, Bruce isn't in checkered ones at least, or lines. All lines usually Bruce is in. Is
oh, lines, suits with arrows on or whatever it is. His general method of dress. So, Drone Advisory Council Committee, whatever it is, I myself to watch that because it is just bunkum, and it is money. It's money stuffing situation. But I know you watched it, Bruce, and I know Patrick was watching it and commenting on it. What is your takeaway? Is a brave new world about to start then, Bruce? We're away.
Absolutely. We're on the dawn of a new horizon, I think, when the skies will be filled with unmanned aerial vehicles transporting, according to Elaine Chow, packages and passengers. Oh no, they're already doing it, she says. We're already transporting packages and passengers in her world. But it's like, I've never seen such a group of self-interested people gathered at one place at one time. It's obvious where this is all going. It's not about national safety. It's not about anything. It's about me. Everyone on that thing was basically interested in what's in it for me or my company. And that kind of makes safety fly out the window when you place commercial imperatives ahead of safety imperatives. But that's really what we're looking at there. As I mentioned in my video, unfortunately, the AMA didn't put in a good show. And I understand that they're working behind the scenes and things, but I think they have to actually just remind their members that they're working. And that doesn't mean just sitting there and watching the world go past. You've got to put your hand up now and then just say something. And what's his name from DJI, Brendan Schulman, he was the only one that really stood up and said anything positive and brought any facts to the table. Everyone else is talking excrement, shall I say. Elaine Chow is telling people that the world that passengers are being flown around in unmanned aerial vehicles, and you've got even the BLM movement was brought into it. Let's hijack a popular bandwagon and attach ourselves to it to increase our profile. No, what's wrong with these people? You should be focused on the issues of the day. Brendan was focused. He brought the facts and the information. Some really interesting facts that there are 81 million drone flights, and they were only the flights that people chose to register with DJI. They were the ones that they chose to share with DJI. 81 million flights in a year, 10 million hours of flight time. And remember, that doesn't include the hobby. That's just the DJI users that chose to share that information. So it probably would have been twice that. So we're looking at probably 20 million flights a year within the hobby. And as Brendan said, that should have been at least 100 deaths if we work to the safety standards of the manned aviation community. That doesn't mean that we're safer in terms of our operations. It just means that our operations are intrinsically just so much safer than manned aviation. And therefore, they deserve this massive amount of regulation, this overreach, this restrictions that we're being seen, because governments like to talk about we want to cultivate and promote this new era of technology, but then they regulate the snot out of it so no one can do anything. That's why people are going to countries like Rwanda and all over the world, but not the USA or many of the Western countries. It's all the little countries that have got more lax regulations where people are actually doing package delivery, zipline and things in Africa, because those countries are perhaps more amenable to that. If you want to do something in the USA or in Canada or New Zealand, you're completely stuffed because the regulations make it virtually impossible unless you're a Canadian mounted police, Royal Mounted Police, a helicopter and drone pilot. But this whole thing, it was a joke. It was a bit of a joke. And I think they should be embarrassed that they're actually showcasing this to the world in the way they do. It's terrible, but not many people really take any notice. That's the big problem. It's just apathy all around.
The cash, isn't it? It's not apathy, it's cash. I see the abusive fellow in the comments. Patrick, check your email in 30 seconds time. Let me just hit send, and if he's about, then the abusive man who's doing at the kitchen. Who's doing at the kitchen at the moment. So don't don't join us on this and get out of your chores there, Patrick. But it's just money and it's misdirection magic, isn't it? Really, I think the COVID-19 is obviously a terrible time around the world for everybody, but a fantastic time for drones to shine, and they haven't, have they? Because they're not really needed. They're not really the big use case. We're a biased audience.
We are a solution. We're a solution looking for a problem. A solution looking for a problem. And the real problem is that so many billions of dollars are going into this unmanned aerial aviation sector. The people with these 3D renderings are going out and getting all this venture capital, and the venture capitalists have been promised that this is the future. And so we've got all this money pouring into the development of drones as a method of delivering packages and passengers. But the reality is that it's not going to be like that. In 10 years' time, we will not see the skies filled with unmanned aerial vehicles. So I think the smart money is moving into UTMs because they realize, well, all we need to do is convince regulators that we need this infrastructure. Then we can provide the infrastructure. We can tax the users that are going to use it, which is basically just hobbyists. So we need to include them in the regulatory loop so that we can charge them a monthly or an annual subscription for this UTM. We can sit back and take the profits, and who cares about the investors that wasted all their money on actually producing drones because no one's using them? Yes.
Okay. Good. That's all for tonight. Goodbye and have a nice week.
I'm just getting warmed up, Louis.
It's about it, really, isn't it? It is just.
Yeah, come on. It's follow the money. I've been saying this for months. You just have to follow the money. Hobbyists don't have the money, except the largest manufacturer of the drones. That's where the money is. So any restriction on the use of the drones would be severe to them. So there's nobody else who's going to stand up. Even the community. Come on, no, even the community. The community has lots of ideas, all good ideas, but not a single direction path, a single keyword, no GA below
2K, no GA
2K. But we don't have any specific concrete idea. We are all to blame for what is going to happen to us with the restrictive measurements.
I've got a new strategy. No, I think what we've got to do
strategy. Come on, you're going to get jailed.
No, not jail. But we need to escalate this to the courts. And what I'm thinking at the moment, I've just discussed this on the Facebook page, is random SD cards. I found an SD card. This was on it. If we can show that there is massive amounts of totally safe operations, despite not being compliant with regulations, you're effectively saying those regulations are not necessary. And by doing that, this will go to the courts eventually. Someone will get prosecuted, probably me. I'll take it to the courts, and I will call on the courts. But we need a background of evidence to say, look, there are 5,000 flights a day being uploaded to YouTube of people technically violating the regulations. But there is not one death, not one major injury, not one case of major property damage. Therefore, this is an infringement of our human rights as provided for under the Human Rights Act. And also, especially,
do we really have human
flying
rights?
A drone is human rights? Oh my God!
Freedom of expression, Louis. Freedom of expression.
Freedom of expression. Where have we been all these years without that form of manifestation? Oh, come on! Oh
no! You've got to tackle it. If they can use it for certain hue of lives, they can use it for drones as well, because freestyle drone flying is an artistic form, and therefore it's a freedom. And under the Human Rights Act, that's covered.
What?
Artistic expression.
Freestyle.
We don't. Oh, squishy, Sarah.
I'm trying to
fellow.
But we have to escalate it because the regulators won't. The regulators are not a judge, they're not an arbiter. We need to take it to the courts. Louis gone away.
That's now got rid of Louis. Now Squishy's got probably an American expression that we're going to have. Patrick's going to have to explain to me that I'm standing in a rye field. I don't know what that means.
Hey,
how's it, Patrick?
I don't know what that means. Maybe I'm in the rice field by myself. Who knows? But It looks like it's winter down there in the southern hemisphere. Am I correct?
Oh yes, very, very much so, very much so. So
it's hot here. It's I think it's over 100 degrees today. If you guys do the Fahrenheit thing, I know you're under that metric.
No, because we're
28 meters.
Yes, 4.5. That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
We'll see you on the moon. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, the South African space program that you're currently running is working very well for you, along with your South African electric cars. But anyway, I
got to make it down there someday. It's all happening down there in South Africa. We know. So, everyone, read the article about the money that the advocates are making and the FAA is making. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Bruce is talking about, because Bruce, of course, was catching your comments whilst that meeting was going on. I couldn't bring myself to watch that meeting just because I got too annoyed and over it.
Yeah, I watched about an hour of it, and I made comments and referenced some of the stories that we published at SUS News because I've called it the Dak and Pony Show before because it's so bad. I mean, they got the guy who's the industry chairperson is, his company was out of compliance with the Pathfinder Beyond Visual Line of Sight waiver for 18 months, man. And the guy over there at the FAA that grants the waivers, I call him now, he's the amazing Jeremy Grogan, because he can see the NAS from his desk in DC. Out here in California, it's only 3,000 miles away. And the guy, he made the determination that it was, it's all safe. Don't worry about it. I don't have to see any logbooks. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to do anything. I could just see it right here from the desk, which is pretty amazing to me.
That made sort of reminded me, the 333 guys had to submit paperwork, didn't they? Did that ever actually happen? Did the FAA ever seek the paperwork that they needed to submit every year?
Obviously not, because if you're out of compliance for a year or 18 months or whatever, obviously you're not collecting the data, or you'd know that they were out of compliance. And everybody over there knew. I'm working on the story. Unfortunately, it's going to be long and it's going to be hard to follow. I'm going to have to make one of those boards with the yarn and the tax, because I've been working on the story over a year. And it turns out they said there was no investigation. They shut 2 investigations down, and there's no report on it or whatever. But I FOIA'd to one division in the FAA, and they sent me the report where everybody was like, no big deal, just shut it down. We got it under control. We'll fix it up over here. Don't worry. And then another office in the FAA saying there's no report at all. So I sent emails to Dan Elwell, Chow, Earl Lawrence, Jeremy Grogan, everybody at the FAA, and nobody ever responded. The only people that responded were the Public Information Office. Even the legal counsel wouldn't respond on this issue. And like I said, 2 investigations were called, 2 or 3, and they were all shut down. So, this thing about safety of the NAS and all the rest of it, it's not even a platitude as far as I'm concerned. And so you got the DAC thing going on. They're talking about UTM. And this is another thing. I like PK. Everybody loves NASA. Put people on the moon. We're still riding those laurels. But, this UTM thing, they did 2 TCL4s where they were doing tests, both in Reno and in Corpus Christi. And this was the big success. They did those 2 tests. And in both tests, they had non-cooperative helicopters invade their airspace. Okay. And this is after it was on national news, local news, no TAMs. FAA warned everyone, told everyone, it's in the paper. And they still had non-cooperative aircraft invade their airspace, and NASA didn't even mention it in the final report. It's irrelevant. And which I said it was disingenuous by omission. Denial's not science. If you get all of this hoopla and you still have invading aircraft, there's a problem. So that was one. And then, Chris Anderson's talking about, he thinks they should change the nomenclature from unmanned to like unoccupied for the U in UAS, which is totally ridiculous. It makes me think he uses Grammarly, because I use Grammarly, and every time unmanned comes up, they say, "Oh, it could be construed as sex."
We did change it already to remote. We already changed it.
Yeah, but Gary, I mean, come on, all you guys are old timers here, right? What are these things? They've been UAVs, they were RPVs, they were RPIAs, they were UAS.
They are something else now, aren't they? They are something else. RPAS has gone, hasn't it? I can't remember what it is, because another year's gone by, so it must be time for another name.
Well, something else. That is what they, let's say that's what stands for progress these days, is nomenclature changes. But anyway, all of that nonsense aside, if you look at the 24 people that are usually on the DAC roster from the FAA, almost everybody there is making $200,000 a year, and again, I don't care how much you're paying people, right? I mean, nobody really cares, right? You guys probably all watch sports or whatever. I don't really, but a guy's really good at, hitting the wicket or whatever the hell he's doing. You want to pay him some money, but if he's a loser, you're not going to pay this guy, millions of dollars or pounds a year. You're going to get rid of him. And what happens here is that people get out and then they go into consulting and whatnot. So then we fast forward to the advocacy people, and you've got, the wild turkey over there at AUVSI, and the dude's making $470,000 a year. For what? That's not.
Well, they're going to have a hard year, aren't they? Because their physical show isn't going to happen. Isn't it? This all going to rather fall apart for them this year.
Well, but they had trouble before this. This is like final nails in the coffin, and that's gonna fast forward me to another story. So, AAUSI helps put on the show for the FAA, and I got I'm looking at the prospectus for the FAA show, and it says that basically that the AUVSI has staff, and if you're a sponsor at a certain level, they'll facilitate one-on-one meetings with the with FAA representatives. My tax dollars pay for these people. They're supposed to be outreaching to me, and I'm going to pay a sponsorship of $10,000 so I can have a one-on-one meeting with my federal employees. I mean, is that how you guys roll in your various countries? I mean,
not as much money, but similar. It was just not so much, yeah.
Well, I mean, we did have an issue with the South African CAA at one time. I'm sure you remember that, when someone was going to help you edit your manual. I thought that was a nice gesture, but this is more blatant. And I didn't write it up as a story, but I did email the FAA council today, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, man," I go, "You guys are marketing and sending out emails and giving people, endorsements and whatever, and they're charging money so I can talk to, employees that are paid with federal tax dollars. I'm waiting to hear back, but that just doesn't smell right to me." And then, so in tomorrow's mail, so, how I've always given the AMA kind of a wide berth, I tried to let them. I mean, we all knew that the Section 336 repeal was coming 6-8 months in advance, a year in advance. I tried to tip them off, and they said, "Oh, we got it. It's covered. Got it handled. Don't worry." We saw what happened with that. Tomorrow's story, I don't know if you already got that in your mailbox or not.
It's not yet. It'll go in tomorrow morning for my time. Yeah.
Well, your friends over at the Grassroots Association are double dipping too. So these guys are just hitting it like a cash register. They're over there at AUVSI. He's getting almost $500,000 a year. Other people over there are getting $200 and something thousand a year. And then, AMA guy is getting $300,000 a year. I mean, and all I see is an erosion of freedom for the hobbyist and an erosion of viability for people who want to be in this as a business. And then, I hear our buddy Jim Williams is waiting in the wings to take over for Brian Williams over there, or Brian Wade at AUVSI. And people are like, well,
hey, wow.
Good choice. It's totally ridiculous. To me, this is a revolving door. Why is there any incentive to get anything done? When you're making $500,000 a year, hell no. And now I know, the guy over there when I was the Silicon Valley chapter president. You remember I was grousing about Mike Toscano making $200,000 a year and Gretchen making $180,000 a year, which seemed like a lot of money back then. And he told me, he's like, you are throwing away opportunity. And I said, well, what, to be opportunity, to be part of the problem? Because I don't really want to be part of the problem. But I didn't realize there was this kind of money in this. If I would have known there was this kind of cheddar in the deal, maybe I would have sold everyone.
From where? No. It's not, Patrick. It's not show me the money, and now it is follow the money. Where does the money come from? What is it trying to purchase that money? That's what we try to be smarter and try to understand where does the money come from.
Oh, the money's coming from DJI. The money used to come from DoD vendors. But, here's another thing. So, I talk to these people all the time. And the people that are engineers that are actually trying to, come up with solutions. I talked to a gentleman from Nigeria who's here doing his PhD. And he's like, I don't want VC money. I want a bootstrap. And he's building batteries. And I said, that's a very sage decision, my friend, because you'll have some guy that knows nothing about engineering or technology telling you what to do. However, the bootstrap thing is something that is going to be predicated on customers. And he says, well, DJI's got 70% of the market. So I think DJI's got more like 95% of the market. So what's going to happen is if you can't, shoehorn your way into that ecosystem, you don't have any customers. And have proprietary software, so you're not going to have customers. We had got ourselves into a pickle, man. And I'm talking a serious pickle here, where, now they're going to do this RID thing. They got the remote ID and tracking. They're coming out in December. There's no way that they read all of the comments and whatnot from the NPRM. That was all perfunctory, like I said it was going to be. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, the guy who's been yelling wolf or the prairie dog out at the end of Prairie Dog Town that's been like ding, 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 for all these years, but it's all coming true. We've seen we were talking about, how the FAA was effectively killing aviation, just decimating it. And they're doing the same thing to drones. Remember, we're going to put out the journal. We're going to put out the documents. I'm sure everybody here saw those documents. The FAA didn't regulate remote control aircraft, and you could fly beyond visual line of sight. You could fly in Class Bravo airspace. You could do whatever you wanted to do back in the early 2000s. And 2000, that's when.
Way back when. Way back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, way back in the early 2000s. There was some guy in New Zealand building a cruise missile or something.
Yeah.
There was exactly. I think he was here somewhere. Anyway, there was an issue that let's say took the initiative or advancements away. Luis, you wanted to say something?
No, it was just pointing at the troublemaker.
Okay, and Bruce, of course, because it's not me. The other thing I think that, we have to, has anybody been following the Agility Prime thing here in the United States?
Yeah.
Well, look for an article coming out in the small business journal thing that we're putting together. And I'm talking about the supply chain, and people aren't going to like it, man. But you got the Air Force is looking at a Class A adversary all up in their supply chain. And I don't know how that's going to work out for national security. Yeah, it could be an issue. I mean, it might be an issue with me. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But the other thing that we're talking about here in the United States is SBIR grants and, contracts for $100,000 or $500,000. Here in Northern California, man, $100,000, you'd get lunch and pay for the parking, and you're done. you know, that is a little bit of an exaggeration, but you're not going to hire an engineer. You're not going to get a lease. You could get a lease on an office, something like that, but it's relatively nothing. Chinese are going to start another technology initiative. When I forget what they even call this thing, but they're talking about $1.4 trillion investment in critical technologies. And so you and your $100,000 can go have a nice day, because that's not really going to amount to much. So we're probably in the United States. We're probably stuck somewhere in, I don't know, 1965.
Man on the moon.
Well, no, the moon. That's another one. 50 years ago, put the men on the moon, bring them back, and we can't integrate a 251-gram drone into the national airspace. Find that really hard to believe. Maybe what we need are some of them, expatriate Nazis. Like we had for the space program. They could do it. I don't know. The ghost of Werner von Braun or something. I don't know.
Yes.
Now it's not expatriate Germans. It's expatriate Chinese. So
well, maybe they can come over here and help us.
It was expat Israelis that started your drone program, though. But anyway, yeah. So it's all. I was thinking today. I was wondering what we've been saying 10 years ago when we were talking about these very subjects. We had kind of foreseen this, not quite exactly as it's run out with this. I think what we missed was the rush to remote ID and people trying to make a little bit of cash there. And we definitely missed the UTMs. I think I sort of naively thought the current system could cope and it would adapt a little bit. I didn't think there'd be a race to that. And UTMs are a funny thing because some of the bigger ones that are standing up now are just fronts for the big traditional air traffic management systems providers who are going, oh my life, if we don't stand something up quick, we're going to lose everything to these Johnny upstarts that can come and control everything more easily than we can with our legacy systems. So it's a funny world.
I don't, back in the day, and this is, we're talking more than 10 years now, and you have experience with ATC. I just went over here to the TradeCon last year, and it's probably changed a lot. Did you look at the green? Were you looking at the green screen?
Yes. Yeah, I was. Yeah. Well, and the process radar. I did move from old Second World War radars to processed digital radar gear in sensors. Yeah. No, it has changed.
Well, the old stuff was hard to, I guess your eyes would start, bugging out of your skull in 20 minutes, whatever. You couldn't, the green screen. But anyway, in the old days, we used to do, before Lance, we'd call the tower and, I'm going to be over there. If you're going to be within 3 miles of an airport, right? Which they expanded to 5 miles of an airport. So they created their own problem or increased the square mileage of problems that they were going to need. The other thing is the calling the tower, oh, that doesn't work. You know why it doesn't work? Is because the Air Traffic Controller Union, that was not considered servicing an aircraft, so they didn't get paid for that. So we got to come up with something totally new. And this totally new system. So is anybody following the NASA AAM thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, people are kind of, I don't know that the 400-foot thing is going to be enough of an envelope for us to make money doing the flying cars, and we may need to go to 1,000 feet. So now you've opened up a whole another can of worms, kettle of fish. You're going to integrate with these legacy systems. I mean, did anyone see the ICAO announcement?
Yeah, I'll publish that again tomorrow. That will go tomorrow as well, along with your piece. There'll be 2 things tomorrow. Yeah.
Should be certified? Who needs certificate? It'll work. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's going to be good. It's going to mesh with the you guys are worried about nothing. You need to go have an IPA, Gary. Can you buy liquor again in South Africa?
Yeah, I bought some today. First time in
okay, I did see the twinkle in your eye.
Sorry?
I see the twinkle in your eye. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Who wants to pick up this? Because this is a cyclical rant that we're going to have forever, really, isn't it now? Until the airspace is finally closed down. Is that the end of the game now? The airspace gets closed down, and that's that. And we all pick another hobby.
I got another topic question I'd like to ask.
Go on then. Go on then. Chuck it in.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but I do not. This drone delivery thing is still. I can't make it work.
Bullshit.
My head, the single sortie, that we're going out there. Okay, so anyway, whom amongst us believes that the string is the thing?
String is the thing.
String is the
I don't
thing.
know. If you've got a kite, or if you need to tie a shoe, or a control line, I mean, somehow the string is the thing.
Delivery on a string.
On strings.
String.
Good idea. We could. You can see the rendering now, can't you? Delivering via like little ski lifts on power lines and phone lines going across everything. We can make the rendering. We'll have it all done by tomorrow night. We'll get some VC money and we'll be away. Because of course it's being by the power line. Oh, it's so obvious.
No, I don't see the economics of the string flying around in places. And so the buddy of mine, Werner, was doing the deliveries here in the South Bay. And they were delivering hand sanitizer and whatever. And he said it's not even the last mile. He doesn't care about the last mile. It's really like the last 10 feet, 6 feet, whatever is really the hard one. And trying to get into people's yards with shrubs and trees and old legacy antenna.
Come on, Patrick. Patrick, that's easily solvable. You just pass a new law that forbids every shrub tree above 2 meters high. So
problem solved. You're right. See,
platforms on the roof, we can sell those platforms. We can make another rendering for rooftop landing systems, and we can have that out again by tomorrow night. Approach some VC money, and again we'll make another fortune. It's so easy, this money making. So easy.
Well, even
we just need to PowerPoint it. As soon as we can PowerPoint it, we got all the VC money that we want.
Well, I have the Excel sheets.
The real money is in catering for FAA dues, isn't
it? Absolutely. Drone delivery in towns aren't going to make a difference, and they'll keep dancing around that German lad who worked out that it's more expensive environmentally and all other bits than a diesel van in a city centre.
The real thing is that we can't fly a 251-gram drone over people or property because it's too dangerous. But they're going to be flying 25-kilogram drones over people or property. Where is the safety coming from? Because don't say it's all down to certification of things. Because
certification.
We see manned aircraft falling out of the sky all the time, and they're all certified. So that doesn't prevent it happening. It may reduce the frequency, but drones will fall on people and kill them. Drones will fall on houses and kill them. So what are they going to do?
Certification and AI, an AI engine running on every drone that will prevent any issue that comes up.
How are you going to certify AI? I just this is
you get an AI to certify the AI because the AI knows all about
they will get McDonald's to certify the AIAIO.
The AIAIO, yes, exactly.
No, you just certify it using blockchain. And that's it. Well,
how about some AR? Can I have okay, but
VR in there as well. As Mark UAV is saying, the ground-based Milton Keynes are 10 kilos of little ground rolling robots. We've mentioned it before, but Milton Keynes, of course, is a fan. I actually really like Milton Keynes, but people in England joke about it. But they made it for pedestrians. Cars aren't the number one thing. So those rolling robots have got a huge advantage because all the housing estates are connected by cycleways and walkways and underpasses under the road. So it's absolutely made. There can't be many cities in the world where they'd actually get away with it, really. Because they'd have to go on sidewalks and they'd have to go on the road and they'd have to go here and they'd have to go there. But Milton Keynes, top job, and they're going well.
No, but little things attached to the power lines, that's a real winner. Like a little cable cars. Brilliant.
Exactly. tiny cameras, and we can make them look friendly to people because we can have little dolls and little people waving at them. Because then we won't be frightened. Not like those horrible noisy drones coming over, all that noise.
That's the other thing, isn't it?
These little waving people, little cable
how are we going to
cars
fly these
bringing
things over people's houses with the noise? Look what happened to Google. People won't accept it. If they don't like people now flying little tiny drones around their houses, what's going to happen when the skies are filled with noisy, freight-carrying, passenger-carrying drones? It's not going to work.
I saw Patrick mentioned UAM, that Lilium lot, who have yet to release a video which includes any sounds, that big ducted fan laden thing, which must say, I cannot begin to believe what that thing sounds like with like 40 ducted fans on it. They just got a unicorn valuation, and we haven't heard the thing yet.
Well, you can get the you can get some noise canceling headphones and everything will be fine. The one other point I wanted to make before is what we're dealing with here. I mean, I don't see, there's no like real linear how this is going to happen. What I see here in the United States is you have that model that I was talking about from the 60s or 70s for certification of aircraft. And they're trying to, you got these new technologies, these new concepts, and they're trying to overlay that on these new technologies. And I'm the guy that, is the wet blanket at the urban air mobility agility deal, because everyone's talking about, oh, the FAA is going to work with us and certify us on this. Honda Jet, 10 years and over $1 billion. Cirrus, they had Microsoft money. The Chinese now own that. So they couldn't get this stuff certified in a, let's say, reasonable time for an amount of money that made sense. And even these the E-Hang drone, which I wouldn't ride in that for all the money
in China.
Some whatever, but I mean the thing was that they're like, oh, it's going to cost $300,000, right? Certify that and get back to me on how much that's going to cost, and then you're going to have these, it's going to be pilot.
Nobody said that. What, $300,000 to certify or $300,000 to buy?
To buy, there was a Chinese article that they were talking between $200,000 and $300,000 to buy one of those. So
then double that on batteries.
Well, who knows? The batteries are going to last. I mean, that's another. Is anybody making batteries that can take that kind of amperage dump? Or speed control.
Tesla, man, the new 1 million mile battery. Yeah. That's the way to go. But the thing is that who would want to get in a craft that is so unsafe the pilot doesn't want to get in?
Come on. There are guys that want to go to Mars and stay there. So I'm sure that we must find a few ones that will fly on that contraption.
No, there was a lot of people that signed up to go to Mars. They had like all these people that signed up, and then there was like, "Were you ready to go?" And they were dropping out, because it's a one-way trip,
Good day to Michael. All the oldies are here now. Squishy's here. Michael's here. Goodness me, what's happening here? So it's retro night.
Retrograde or
RC group. Yes, RC groups night. That's what it is. It's people of the group. I don't go there anymore. Does anyone go there anymore ever?
No, they kicked me out.
Now and again.
Really, Bruce?
Yeah, because I criticise Spectrum. You can't criticise a sponsor. You get kicked out. No. I dared to say it wasn't that good a product. I get out of here. Community violation. Oh, yeah, okay.
No, I got tired of fighting with nitwits. Now I fight with nitwits on Facebook. Or on Twitter. That's another, these people, that's one other thing about E-Hang. People are like, I'm like, they couldn't even hack it in the toy drone, sector. And now they're making flying cars. Well, it was a good jump. They made the right decision to get out of drones and get into flying cars.
But they have the technology to get into the delivery side more, because there is a space for the delivery world in where I'm from, in the developing world.
Sure.
It definitely is, and there are times and places for it in the developed world, because no one's you're gonna relax the rules a little bit if you're transporting a heart or some just-in-time medicine or something that saves a life. That gets a whole different kettle of considerations then, because that's going to be once in a while, not continuous, not dozens and dozens of. And what's Zipline have ramped up now? I'm jumping around a bit. 600 flights a day in Ghana. 600 flights a day. BV loss. That's pretty cool.
There must be bodies everywhere.
Yeah. They'll be flying over. Sorry, say again, Patrick.
Have they killed anyone yet?
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. They're trying very hard, obviously, with that sort of number of flights. But, you know, and that's a very sorted end-to-end operation. But that's, anyway, I jumped away from what I was trying to say, which was that a big delivery drone in an emergency situation could certainly bash through and would have different rules applying to it. And EHang should have gone there. They just went, I don't know why they went to the flying car. And why do we have to keep calling them flying cars? Can we stop calling them flying cars?
Something just occurred to me. Something occurred to me. If you're delivering hearts or body organs, why would you use a drone? Because hospitals have helipads. So transporting from a helipad to a helipad would seem to me to be a simple operation. Why would you need to go to all the complexity of having a drone to do that?
Well, fair enough. Yes, fair enough then. Well, hand sanitizer then. Yeah, no, all right. You're right. That was possibly a poor example.
I think we've talked about this for years too. I mean, even being an unmanned systems technology person, really, it's always about payload. Carrying payload. If you want to carry people, we already have vehicles for that. Really, it makes sense. You know, I try to tell people this too: is aircraft really only make money when they're in the air? That's an old aviation adage. And before we're carrying passengers around in all these cities and stuff, it's going to be a long time. Let's get our feet wet with cargo in unpopulated areas, or let's say underserved areas, or underdeveloped areas, or whatever else, you know. And you know, put a few years on that, and then we're ready to go.
Well, it's exactly what Zipline's done, isn't it? They can walk into America and say, and the FAA can say, well, what experience do you have? And you can say, well, we're currently doing 600 flights a day in Ghana. We're doing, I think it's 90 flights a day in Rwanda, and we're doing, you know, well, what else do you need?
It's just the will. It is only the will. I was also privy to do another. This is going to be my last story, and then I'm going to have to go because I got to go pick up my car. But during this COVID-19 thing, there was an appeal made to the UASIO for law enforcement to have them, you know, maybe let off the reins a little bit because they weren't sure what was going to happen and they had staffing issues and whatever else. And this is really the time that they could use drones to help people during this pandemic. And, you know, I would say FAA representatives were very condescending, and their attitude was something that I would call less than service oriented. And, you know, so we did get some freeing up of drone delivery and some police use or whatever, but that was due to motivational calls from Congress and the Department of Transportation saying, hey, you know, what are you, crazy? So these guys just don't want to lighten up the reins. Like I said, I think it's all profit motivated. You don't want to fix any problems. If you want to get out and you want to have a consultancy and you want to make, you know, a few $1 million on the deal for the next 10 years. There's really no other. I mean, all along we've been talking about these solutions for all of these problems, science, you know, whatever else, start out in the country, whatever else. And I was thinking, God, it's so easy. It's all figured out. Well, you know, I came to the conclusion that I'm not a very smart person because I could have made a lot of money and I wouldn't be building my own cabinets. I'd just go out and buy them.
Yes. But
you wouldn't be doing your own plumbing, Gary.
Don't get me on that. Don't get me on plumbing.
Your next life, you're going to be loaded. It's going to be great. It'll be like Mortimer, you know. Emergency.
You definitely will. You definitely, yeah. I mean, what would you tell a young? I wouldn't tell a young person to get into the drone world. I'd tell them to get into plumbing.
Plumbing.
Electrician, plumber, anything like that. Carry on. That's the way forward.
Well, plumbers, you know, nobody really like, well, what's it going to cost me? You know, like when the water's on the floor or, you know, the sewer's backing up, just get out here and fix it.
Yes, it's not yeah, exactly. When you need it, don't you? And there's no hanging around or anything like that.
It's easy money. It's almost as good as being the president of AMA. He's only he's got one job. He's bringing down I think $1,600 an hour, which is a little bit more than a plumber gets, but it's good stuff. Anyway, I got to take off, but everybody should look for that. Look for the article.
It'll be in tomorrow's news.
And the journal is going to be great. I even have the vice president of In Situ wrote an article about, how the FAA regulation is slowing down their innovation, which is, I was shocked that they wanted to contribute an article because I'm like kryptonite to most of these folks. So there's going to be some good articles in that. But anyway, thanks for inviting me on. And have a nice day, and we will talk again soon.
Cheers. He's going to go and get the Rolls Royce out of servicing. Cheers, mate. Take care.
Later.
Yes. Oh, there we are. He's gone now. What's he going to say? He was going to say
nothing. Something. No. Where's Louis gone?
No. Louis went.
I lost Louis.
It's just this whole industry is Groundhog Day, though, isn't it? Really, it's just bloody Groundhog Day, and I haven't seen it quite how the AMA don't realise they've been. We know they were stitched before with 336. They thought that was open door. Here we go.
They do realise they've been stitched.
They know what's going on.
They're going to make a fortune out of this. They're not. They have to say, "Oh no, we're working behind the scenes." They're sitting back going, "Oh, that's obviously it."
Look, the reality is if this all happens like the NPRM said, model flyers will only be able to fly at AMA or certified sites, which will largely be AMA sites.
They have to be a CBO operated site.
But they still, here's the gotcha. Yeah. They still haven't made the AMA a CBO. So there's the gotcha. You can sit at the table, you can take your money, and then the meeting's end. They say, oh, there was one thing we forgot to do. Oh, that means there's no flying sites.
No. What happens is the FAA says to the AMA, you don't cause us too much trouble and we'll give you CBO status. But if you start making a noise, we might not give you CBO status. So the AMA sits here and goes,
it's black. And that's why they're quiet, because they can't. What can they say? They can't risk losing the ability to actually have its members fly somewhere, but they get to benefit from this massively. They get to take back the control, just like the BMFA in the UK. They don't like certain parts of the industry. As a drone user, you're pretty much shunned. They don't want you on their sites for the most part. I'm not going to say all of the areas are the same, but it's a largely older fixed wing generation who want balsa and timber and sit there carving it out, and that's not a bad thing, but they've been largely against the modern tech, because in most of their eyes the modern technology is the reason they're getting all of this legislation, the reason they're being restricted in the first place. But you can't stop the march of technology. This all stems from the mobile phone. We put all these sensors in phones. You could, once the phone became portable and small, it allowed all of this technology to grow, and we got all these sensors in these damn cameras. The drone isn't. It's all in there as well. It's all in all of it, but they're going to make a lot of money out of this. And the reality is they're going to then get to control it. And what they've lost over the last 10 years is control. And what they're going to gain is that back. And that's a big thing. People underestimate how important control is. It's all about control.
Don't forget also, AMA is only interested in AMA. It's not interested in the hobby, the wider hobby, all these people now flying in parks and flying mini quads safely in abandoned buildings. Not interested in that. They're interested in the AMA. I mean, that's like any company, corporation, entity. Its first responsibility is to itself. And that's what it has. Second responsibility is to its members, and no responsibility at all to the wider hobby.
And it's self-preservation as well. And that's its most important thing, is ensuring it's here in the future to be able to have a say. And if that means allowing large parts of the industry, or the hobby, I should say, to be locked down, so be it. Because like all of these clubs and organizations, they've become irrelevant. Just like it has been for almost every hobby. It's not unique to model aviation. If anything, actually, model aviation has hung on longer than any of these type of hobbies, whether it be fishing, whether it be all of these things. The club style of things went out of fashion at the end of the 80s, and people started being able to do what they wanted to do wherever they wanted to do it, and they're struggling to be relevant. And whilst probably Model RC is the last industry where they have been able to remain relevant for longer than most, they've seen an opportunity here to grab a slice of the pie for the future.
I think are we sort of confusing some words there? When I think club, aren't we talking association rather than club?
Yeah,
I think a club would be down a field rather than because I've been a member of associations, but I've never been a member of a club.
Association. Yeah, and it's no different to, you've seen it in all hobbies. All hobbies used to be niche. Now you can buy it, go do it. People don't want to have to say, "Can I please be a member of your club?" People go, "No, I want to do this, and I'm going to do this." And if you're going to say no, I'm going to do it anyway somewhere else. We live in a world now where people don't want to have to ask permission to join these types of organizations. And I suppose our biggest problem is we all hoped they were going to do the right thing for the industry, and I suppose we were probably, or I was at least a little bit short-sighted for both the BMFA and the AMA, that they would overall do the right thing. They've done the right thing for them, but no one else.
What's the industry now? It's
been good.
I used to buy things from RC shops in UK. Most of them they're closed. Most with the starting with the hobby kings of the world. The RC hobby became democratic, so anyone can reach it and anyone can start on that hobby. So they don't have any economical constraints to start on that hobby. With that democratization of the hobby comes the problems, because as it is the lowest barrier to entry on the hobby, also creates new challenges, and no one was able to cope with that new demand. Because let's face it, the hobby kings of the world don't add much to the game except for expansion of the number of users, not modelers. That's two different categories of people. The modelers are one and the users are another one. And yes, I bought things from Hobby King, but whenever possible, I try to buy from the local RC industry. There isn't any.
Yeah, but you got to realize now that the whole ecosystem's changed. We used to be, the hobby shop was where you went to get advice and help, and to if you had a problem, and that the hobby shop owner would know how to do things. He was a modeler himself. Now we've got the internet for that. We've got YouTube. So all people want is the cheapest product at the cheapest price. But the traditional hobby shop has lost its value because of the value that the internet is providing. And so that's why these little hobby shops are closing down. And I think that's why we've got the likes of Horizon and some of the other traditional hobby suppliers really backing the AMA at the moment, really backing them. And because they see that's their last hope to cling on to a market, because everyone else is just saying, well, where's it cheaper? I'll get it off AliExpress or Banggood. And where do I need some help? I'll go online to Bruce Simpson or Joshua Bardwell or whatever, and I'll watch the videos. So that they're being marginalized. And I think they're keen to work with the AMA to try and keep a bit of that going, because even Flight Test marginalizes them, because Flight Test is selling foam board and Flight Test is selling little flight systems that they've imported from China. So Horizon Hobby are right on the outs. I think we have to realize that the only constant is change, and that if these organizations and companies don't adapt to the change, then they're doomed.
So that's why we don't see from who else is going to vouch for whatever kind of good legislation on every country. It's not the Chinese sellers. We as a whole, as a group of people interested in the hobby, we killed several entities on the hobby. So now,
but it's always been a small business. It's a very small industry. All the hobby shops put together wouldn't count for 1% of the adult entertainment industry.
Yeah, I know, Bruce. But the thing is perception. Now you have no one. You have a bunch of people, and short from what you did, and the guys, Josh from Flight Test did, create a community around model RC hobby. No one is doing that, even less on a country by country. So those AMAs, our local federation, the equivalent of the AMA, they're irrelevant. I was discussing the other day because here the drone pilots started an organization which joins many, not all, but many drone pilots. And I was discussing with one of the board members, why don't you guys take over the local AMA? And they said, why? It's a bunch of old guys there, and it's too much trouble. So we started our own association, and we are already speaking with the right guys. So we don't need them for anything.
Even if the AMA was active and was growing, the problem is that AMA members don't really care. They're happy with their little balsa models in the field. That's why there was less than 50,000 responses to the NPRM out of, and a great number of those weren't even AMA members. 200,000 AMA members, 50,000 responses. So at least 3 out of 4 AMA members didn't give a damn enough to actually fire off a form to the authorities. So that's what I mean. It is a changing world, and those people are just greying out. They're aging out of the system. The young people are coming through. They're the ones who are going to be responsible for making change. And
perhaps they're not interested in change. They just go with the flow. Okay, I have to fly this drone. It's a plug and play. Just press where is the on button and just take off, and the drone does not fly because it's restricted by the manufacturer.
But you see we're missing another trickle point or thing that's not leveraged enough. It is the education piece of it. God, that ginger lad, I can't remember his name now. He's been on here.
I see what you mean, and that comes a lot from the STEM studies.
Prince Harry, that's the one. There's some Standen, isn't it? It's her name. I'll remember in a minute. But my word, what a clever lad! And there's some youngsters, there's some videos out there, and some technology stuff they're showing and doing. You think, wow, that's impressive and inspiring. And they've all come up. Tom Stanton, he's came up from the FPV world, and it's amazing. And thank you, Andrew. Yeah. Is what he produces and others produce is absolutely amazing stuff that should be shouted from the rooftops, and they are the future of a load of industries, these sort of youngsters, and they've come out of a hobby that's allowed them to get there. Okay, I guess because of cheap hobby keying and things like that compared to how we were, but they were all BMFA members and things like that, or Tom and Co. And that's the education piece of it's being missed, and the high horse. I'll get off my high horse. I'll come and hang on. I'll just get off the high horse. It'd be a shame to see it go in the next couple of years.
Says, even these days I get a new model, and I jump right in on YouTube to see what others are doing with that model, and it's easy. Makes it the access easy. Then I might lose 2 or 3 weeks going over what I've mislearned from the YouTube videos and do it my own way. But that's another issue, because I'm a tinkerer by nature, so I like to tinker with the stuff. But most of the people, come on, it's just plug and play, and we are on the plug and play hobby these days.
I don't know. I might argue that they're not the hobby. They're not the hobby. Those people. No. I would still put them to one side.
There's still a lot of people who get so much pleasure out of making stuff work and repurposing stuff and creating stuff. That's why flight testers doing so well. People are building things with their own hands.
But it's it's like we've said before, it has always been a niche activity.
Yes,
and it's going to continue to be a niche activity, although with more exposure. The problem is the exposure does not correspond to the number of tinkerers, and those tinkerers are less and less, because it's very easy to not be a tinkerer, to not do something that no one has done before. We see this on ArduPilot, because we get requests almost every day for someone that wants to develop a new flight controller. And sometimes I ask myself, why we have such great flight controllers, and why do you want to build a new one? And then I get the idea. Yeah, he has the challenge. But come on, it's a minority of the minorities.
That's what's killing local hobby shops too, because the only benefit they can offer now is having stock on the shelves, so you can go in and buy something without waiting 2 weeks for it to come from overseas. But the problem is that things are changing so quickly that they can't afford to keep stock on the shelves, because as soon as the new one comes out, no one wants the old one. So that whole model is there's no way to really make it work properly.
Yeah. Some aspects of the hobby will never change. Ever since we got the foamies, I'm sure you did that too, Bruce. Cutting with hot wire, cutting some foam, building some NACA profiles, and all that. Yeah, we all did that. But come on, it isn't so easy to go and with 2 clicks get a new foam.
But the thing you got to remember is the hobby now is flying. The hobby used to be building. The hobby is flying now. I enjoy my flying. I don't want to have to spend 2 months building something, because I enjoy the flying aspect far greater, and the repairing aspect, fortunately. But it does mean that I can get out there and do more flying, and it means I can be more aggressive and do things with flying I wouldn't have done before, because previously I didn't want to risk 2 months worth of building to try a new trick. But today I don't give a damn, because it's $60 worth of foam, and if I wreck the plane, I'll try again with a new one.
Yeah.
Which can often get you into trouble, it seems.
No. 4th week of a 1 week investigation? No.
By the way, I have a new gadget for you, Bruce. Is a micro SD card locator. You go on a park. It has a wand, a big wand. So you go and look for micro SD cards. So, but it's not a finished product. You'll have to do some assembly.
All I do now is just sort of part the bodies on the ground, and you usually find the cards embedded in them, after the drones have hit them and killed them all.
FX Node, I want a laser cutter as well, and I might be able to get one past the authorities, because Sarah is a sculptor, and we have to box up sculptures and send them off all over the place. So I might get a laser cutter out of needing to make boxes for sculptures.
Why would you want to cut a laser? Just buy one the right length?
Yeah, absolutely. That's how they work, isn't it? That must be.
You can just cut the light with your hand. You just use your hand to cut the light.
And then your fingers fall off. It's really good.
Yeah.
Come on, Gary. Why do you want to buy a laser cutter? Why don't you build one? It's easy.
No. That's what I would do if I did. Yeah. That's what I would do.
All those things we said earlier, it's affected every, it's affected fishing, it's affected, it's hitting retail today. You go in a shop, have a look at it, and then get your phone out your pocket and have a look how much you can get it online. I think the consumer world we found ourselves, well, not in South Africa, Gary, you don't have shops, but, in the UK, we're the largest online country for their online sales. I think the UK is one of the largest in the world, and actually through the current human malware situation, it's gone even more than it ever has before. And even when all these bricks and mortar places open back up, they're not going to get the same level, because people who weren't used to shopping online have had to do it now, and they've had a taste for it, and it's forced all of those people into it. And and I've been guilty of it, walking into Curry's, looking at a TV and going, I like that, how much is it online? And that's why you've started to see the likes of Apple open their stores, because manufacturers are starting to showcase their product, because they know people might not buy it from them, but they want to see what it's like. And you've had Bose and all of these places do the same thing. And whilst some people spend the cash in the store, a lot of the time it's people being able to put touchy hands on product, feel it, get used to it, and think, yeah, that's what I want to order, and then buy it at their favorite retailer.
Only hobby that hasn't followed that trend, Ian. Golf. You still
golf, yes.
So you still go to the pro shop. You still go, and yeah.
And that's probably largely because of price.
You can buy it online. You can buy it online. Usually, it's much cheaper. but then you value the advice of the pro.
Yeah. Well, there's in golf, there's a sub, being involved with the pro and the club is a thing in itself, isn't it? And it's, that's the thing. And we've lost that in this hobby, and Bruce is largely to blame for killing a lot of these shops, he's, and as you said earlier, those of us who do this thing, we've taken away that advantage those premises had. You'd go in and say, I got this servo, how do I connect this up? What do I do with this? And now you just go on your phone or you go on YouTube. I'm exactly the same as you, Louis. Before I buy anything, I look at review. If I order something, I have a look at it online, see what someone says about it, and then I'll have a look at how it works before it even comes, and have a look at the menus and all. And when it walks through the door, I don't need that instruction book because I've already watched that video of the guy setting it up, and we're all guilty of doing that. I think we started on this little bit of a rant from why the AMA haven't stood up for the hobby, and it's pretty clear to say the hobby isn't the hobby it was 10 years ago.
It's not only the AMA. The AMA locked himself on a paradigm of our group of people. All the model aviation federations, like the AMA, locked themselves on that, and the drone guys are not very well welcomed in those groups because they don't buy it, they don't build it. Even if you build it, come on, it's a stupid thing that flies for 3 minutes.
When you assemble it, and you assemble it, that's what I was hit with. You built this. No, you didn't build it. You assembled it, and I've been there. I've had that argument. But no, I think regulation-wise, I think we've not ended up in a good place anyway. Unfortunately, I think things were looking okay at one point in the UK and Europe, and they're looking decidedly worse now. And I think the European stuff the wool pulled over our eyes. I think in America they seem to have stepped back, but we don't know. There's been no comments on the NPRM. Where's all of that? Where's all the comments? Where's the feedback? Where's the consultation?
Yeah.
No.
No. They'll do what they want to do to control the space to be able to sell it. And look, the world's now in a worse place financially than it's ever been. Therefore, measures to put money in business pockets and allow businesses to do things is probably going to happen more than it's ever had. Governments are going to be far more open to, we need to do something because the economy's in a pan and we need these businesses making money and we need these people. You can do whatever you want. Carry on. And there's a chance we're just all going to get steamrolled here.
Yeah.
I'm writing down that 695.
So, can we register as a criminal gang or something? Is there some kind of
technically, Bruce, technically you already do qualify.
No, he's the drug lords. Come on, he's the Pablo Escobar of drone flying.
Dear.
Yeah. So what's happening with your 1 week / 5 week investigation, Bruce? Where are you at?
It's still underway. It's still, apparently they're really having to fight. They're having to import rope from overseas, I think, to hang me with. Because it's and of course with the current crisis that takes time. Now apparently they're waiting for some of the parties they've contacted in respect to verifying my evidence respond, and it's taking a long time apparently. I don't know why, mainly because most people think this is just a complete waste of time. They can't be bothered responding, I suspect. But it's like, I just can't believe they got nothing better to do with their time.
So
they're following due process, so
I mean, how much time do you allocate? I mean, you would have to say, I've looked at the other complaints register. They've got a thing, they publish all the complaints, and they have things like, I saw a drone, and it's lodged as an official incident, and it must be followed up. Seriously, how much time would you spend up following that? It's not just because you see a drone doesn't mean any. Did they go and research and find out where that was, and if there's any other witnesses, and can someone substantiate the claim that this person saw a drone? No, you say this represents a real risk to safety. This doesn't. So we'll apply ourselves to this and not that. The problem is, obviously they think I was a risk because they wouldn't be spending all these weeks chasing information up and trying to get all this stuff. And it's pretty simple what I presented. They could make a judgment on the spot, I think, as to whether this was safe or not. And so they must have decided it wasn't safe, and they're going to try and find the evidence to prove that. Let them go for it.
That or they're gathering so many evidence that they're going to show you the book and the printed off the book. So
I can use a Kindle. E-books are much better now.
The book is so big, they can't find someone to pick it up.
The thing is, they've given me so much time. I have all my strategies in place. It doesn't matter what they do. I am prepared for the outcome. And I don't think they are.
To be fair, it seems a lot of effort for just one complaint that Gary put in. You know, it was only one. It was only one email.
Yeah. But don't forget the ones that you and Louis put in.
Come on. You're putting poor Gary on the spot.
It was only one complaint. You know, I saw the email. It wasn't that bad.
But here's something to consider. What would happen if all my subscribers filed complaints? How busy would the CAA be?
Yeah.
If they have to follow every complaint through, how much time would that take up?
Well, that was right back in the day, 2000, I think it was 2008 or 2009, when pull up a sandbag. I've said this one before. When the police used a drone at to look at the protesters protesting against the British National Party somewhere up north, I can't remember where, and they worked out that you had to, and that was when it was a stills camera, and if you asked the police, they had to give you copies of their images, and that's what the protesters did, and it cost the police an absolute fortune to get them all printed and sent to the hundreds of people. That Codner Castle, that was it. It's British National Party, Codner Castle, and yeah, that's what occurred. So yeah, complaints may work in that case, but then might they bill you for some sort of dodgy dealing, Bruce? So you can't do that.
They could try and fine me for doing something against the regulations and things, but I'd take that to court. They're going to incur more expense. It would just seem to be a path that you really wouldn't want to wander too far down if you're dealing with public money and you've got so many other things that you should be doing.
Come on, what are they doing, Bruce? Send them back to Australia? He's just going to send them back to Australia. So
yeah, and don't forget, I've got a better arsenal than they have.
So that footage you put up, you found that on a card. So I just don't see how they can. I wonder how much this costs. Does it, you know, when you invest,
the money of the workers is already on your.
But everything costs time. I do investigations weekly. I do these things for a living now and again, and yeah, everything takes time. You know, people say, "Oh, yeah, but." People are paid. I'm paid to do various things, but if I'm not doing that, I'm doing this. If I'm not doing this, I'm doing that. So, you know, you look at the balance properties, you look at the footage, you look at the info. You're not exactly conspicuous, you know, hiding, are you, Bruce? You know, what you have to look at is what is the reality here? What is the reality of the outcome, and why drag it out unnecessarily?
Because they have to, and perhaps Gary is too important for them to ignore his complaints.
Yeah, well,
to be fair, the person that filed the complaint, the person that filed the complaint is too important for them to just tell him forget it.
It didn't help what you wrote. Really.
They went from the due process and they went all the way to try to nail it, and basically
what I'm trying to get exposed here is, are we talking about compliance or are we talking about safety? Two completely different things. And I want to find out whether CAA's perspective is you must be compliant or whether their perspective is you must be safe, because that's a very important distinction. And if they're going to say compliance, then I'm going to complain, because they say in their thing their job is safety. Their job isn't compliance, it's safety. And if they're going to overlook whether something's safe or not solely to focus on compliance with a rule set that's not well suited to the problems they're facing, then that's something that the courts need to address, or needs to be addressed by a higher authority. So I don't know, maybe that's something they're going, what the hell are we going to do? we don't have any rope.
Bruce is becoming a politician. They ask him A, and he replies B. So he's becoming a politician. No, Bruce, you're being nailed for this thing. So yeah, and I'm trying. You've gathered lots of friends along the way, and perhaps one of them decided it was time to shut you off. I see it like this.
I live near a bridge. I live near a bridge. It could be a troll.
Yeah. So it's perhaps telling now, Jacinta, it's time that we ship back the Australians out of New Zealand.
Well, they can't do that. No, because there's a disease going out there. You can't send someone out into that. I'm on an island of security.
When the tide's out, you can walk back across. It's okay. Yeah.
When the drones can carry me, I'll go by drone.
Yeah,
I'm safe. Yeah, I'm safe.
It's well, they must have a natural end, like a maximum time it can go to, because it's a pretty cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, well,
to have you work.
10 years sounds about right for the crime, but you never know, do you? You know.
Come on, Gary. You shouldn't have, but yeah, we understand why.
Yeah.
Well, I had to. You made me. I wasn't going to. You know what we said.
Anything for views, eh? Anything for views.
Subscribers. You wanted these subscribers.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm being monetized.
The plan was once you got locked up, we were going to announce it all on a show with you locked up with just a picture of a set of bars where you usually are. But we thought we better spill the beans early.
I drink at quite a few bars. You'd have to have a big screen.
Yes. Look, we are definitely going into waffle mode here, gentlemen. Was there any other exciting or daring news? I did notice that the Coast Guard north of you, the Coast Guard helicopter trial, the Schliebel S-100, made it into the press, but that's been going for about 2 months. So I don't quite understand why that made it to the press, but there we are.
It hasn't.
France.
There's been France or something in France.
I remember that there was someone posted something in one of the Facebook groups, I think, about France requiring transponders to be fitted as of the end of the month or something. But there is none.
That's why we have that initiative by one of the autopilot team members that started an open source project for a remote ID beacon to be attached on any drone. But the problem is the definitions are not clear, so they just went middle of the road, and it complies with the requirements. So just a piece of Arduino and a GPS, and bang.
Yeah, that's about it. There's not been a lot of drone news this week at all, has there? Really?
What day is it? It's the 24th, so 6 days' time. It's the new release from Parrot. 30th, I think, that's coming up.
Skydio did that conference, not conference, but they did that web chat. There wasn't a lot of anything interesting on that, particularly. There's a lot of DJI rumors running around, but it's all nonsense at the moment. It's just.
I saw a camera thing today.
Yeah. There's two things. There's a camera leak. It looks like a drawing for a small camera. I think that's probably for RoboMaster, something like that. There's talk of some bigger sensors going on the Mavic 3. I'm not convinced about MFT. They say there's talk of MFT, which is bigger than 1 inch, but smaller than APS. But that's still a big set. 1 inch is big enough for what they need to do. I don't think the sensor size will increase. I think there'll just be some other changes.
Just give me a phase 1 camera. Just give me a phase 1 camera. It's
just phase 1. Yeah, just stick a phase 1 on a Mavic. 100 megapixel, please.
Squishy saw the Blue Angels investigation. So I don't know. I've been tracking that, and Rev's gone. The sun's gone down. The sun gone down in Wales? So it never went down in Wales.
It does. It has finally gone down. It's that warm tonight. I've got the door open.
Well, that's good. Save the. I'll get the fumes out from all your printing. And just explain again how you managed to put a device in a bag in your house and you still managed to break the USB on.
Well, actually, I've broke two things this week. I've drowned a laptop.
Lovely.
Drown a laptop. I'm trying to understand the concept.
Well, what happens is, Louis, when I was helping Alex, one of the developers at ArduPilot, with the DJI FPV system, because I've been helping him. In fact, I'm sending him my system the end of the week as well. I did some late night testing because he sleeps as little as I do, it seems. And I left the laptop outside for 2 days in the rain. It was late. I was rushing. One of these things. So that's now in bits over there. It's actually being rebuilt. I have ordered the part to repair it. So believe it or not, a MacBook Air can survive 2 days of torrential rain. And somehow the USB port broke on my Mavic 2. And I did not do that. There's a video. I didn't do it.
Protest too much.
I break many things, and I openly admit when I break them. That one was not me. That one was horrible hippie solder, as Bruce called it, and it was so soft, though, Bruce. I couldn't believe it. And I tell you why, because the video is coming out tomorrow. I do the full repair on a video, and I moved in the repair one of the other switches just by putting my finger on it. How loose, soft the solder actually is. It's insane. I think the connector, because when you pack it away, the connector stays in it, and I just think there was enough pressure on it to pop it off. But all hippie solder is gone, and goods 3763 is on board. But
I'm actually wondering how long it's going to be before tin whiskers become an issue. With the super small circuitry we're working with now, lead-free solder, in 10 years' time, will everything start breaking all at once as the tin whiskers finally cross the gap?
Well, I put that video up about the dots on my motherboard. I think that's tin whiskers. Some of the dots I noticed on the back of the board, and I completely forgot about this phenomenon. It's one of those things you've heard about, and it completely went. And someone said to me, because I had little dots all across the back of my motherboard, and it just wipes off, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And someone then said, probably tin whiskers, and I just thought, and I forgot how big an issue that's become again now. And they said they start growing within weeks of the solder being laid on the board now.
Explain exactly what that means then, for someone that's just about.
Do you want to do it, or do you want
to? Go for it, Ian. I'll correct you if you make a mistake.
No, it's basically a phenomenon that they don't really understand why it happens, but lead-free solder begins to grow little whiskers, is the simplest term, off it, and it's basically like little grass growing off the solder, or spikes, and it grows outwards. And it's a phenomenon that was first found by NASA, if I recall. They found it very early on, and it will short out devices. If you've got two solder joints, it will grow from one to the other, and it's
organic matter that is growing out of these things.
It's tin. It's metal.
It's crystals of tin. Crystals, like metal crystals of tin.
Yeah.
Dendrites.
Yeah, the stability of the soldering has gone with the absence of leather.
So it's making crystals
leather.
like you
would. You're not in your dungeon now, Leo.
Leather.
Yeah. But on the other side, everything's a bit lighter now.
Yeah. It was deemed a major concern with NASA for the shuttle program. They deemed it such a risk to a failure. It was taken that seriously, but it's a phenomenon I'd heard about years ago and completely forgotten. And you mentioned it then, Bruce, and one of my users did on my motherboard video as well. And it's scary.
The thing is like Bruce says, has it been beyond any doubt proved that the solder that had the lead in it was that bad?
No, it's just it's only during the fabrication process where you get the fumes. Apart from that, nothing. It's just hippies ruining the industry.
And then from one moment to the other, we all came with a new set of problems that we didn't have. So
Yeah.
It also, I mean, look, these BGA devices, quite often they get the solder fragments underneath those, and that's because the tin, the tin solder is also isn't as ductile, so it's more susceptible to shocks and things. And the thing, of course, is that now we're making electronic devices. We don't expect them to last more than a few years. They're not supposed to last a long time. So I guess they just say, built-in, failure. We don't care.
Well, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, to know the quantity of electronic goods that have had to have been binned, destroyed as a result of lead-free solder failure. Just take the Xbox alone. That's a major known issue. You think of the quantities involved. If you take into the fact of all of the recycling that's had to happen as a result of failure because of lead-free solder, compared to actually putting it in place in the first place and not having these problems.
Yeah, I have a display of a Yamaha amplifier that has failed because of the problems with the soldering. I know the solution, but come on, it's hundreds of tiny little solderings to do, and it really is a royal pain in the butt. It's those things that the solution. It's a very easy repair. But the hassle to get it repaired is just too much. And if you try to have it repaired by professional services, they'll just say, sorry, we are going to spend 6 hours soldering, and no.
Yeah. Well, that connector that come off, there was zero damage to the connector. Not a pad lift, not a pin lift. It has literally just gone off. When you look at the solder points and you look at everything, it whatever it's done, it's just had enough force. It didn't even bend the pins when it came up. So that says how little force.
There you might have another problem that I've also seen is the number of heating and cooling cycles that the drone itself has. So the drone, it's inside, it runs 60, 70 degrees.
Yeah.
So
even the remotes get hot.
And those heating and cooling cycles are not very good for the kinds of soldering that they're using.
I did think at one point, had the LiPo expanded inside, because there's a LiPo in the remote, and because obviously the USB port is fixed in place with a connector going through the side, which means it can't move. And I did think at first, had the battery expanded because it hadn't been used, and put a bit of force on the connector, but there was no sign of that. But
is Gary going to China?
He's Gary's going to China.
He's building something.
I did a video on this one, so that's coming out tomorrow night. It's uploaded. It was what I was doing when earlier on, so it's not an interesting one, but it is possible. It's good to be able to repair things more. I've tried to get a bit more myself into doing a lot more of my own little repairs. Stuff you would usually have just gone, I'm gonna have to send that away or do that, and I've done a lot more for friends over the last month as well. They've had a Bluetooth speaker. It's interesting, these micro USB ports, they're all crap, they're all weak, they're all soft, they're all useless, and they're lots of stuff is being binned because of silly little things like broken ports.
I went to find this GPS out that I've got it for sentimental reasons, because it and I have been on lots and lots of adventures and misadventures, and I used to live near the Garmin place near Southampton, and I had a problem with the GPS, and I took it in there to be fixed. No, it's a GPS 90. The 90. It's one of the original aviation ones. So I went in there, and I thought, well, they'll fix it, and everything could be lovely. And they just had bins and bins and bins. He just picked it up. He just chucked it in the bin. He said, no, have another one. And he just picked it up. So the predecessor to this just got hoyed into a bin. And I was astounded at that. And I don't quite know how they do recycle all of that in there, if they even do at all. I mean, I suppose it'd be a little bit of gold and stuff in there. But it's
Speaking of GPS, China has just launched the final satellite of their GPS system, and they're claiming millimeter accuracy. So now we have 4 global positioning systems operating around the world. So it'll probably only be a matter of time before we get the other one added to the cheap Banggood GPS unit.
Yes. China.
We already do have it. I think
Galileo. There's a Japanese one too.
Is it a global one though? Is it global?
No, but is the Chinese global?
Yeah, I think they got 35 birds up, which probably means it's probably close to global, I would think. It's
so then Galileo is not global yet.
And the Italians like to turn it off every now and again.
Ground station. What does this button do?
We fix it next week because Alex is Italian. I'm going to tell him that you're saying that about Italians.
I worked for Italians for 5 years. I know what they're like. Yes. So yes, they weren't important. Yeah, we'll just turn that off. We don't need that. So
did Alfa Romeo make that Italian ground station? They're good. The European version of Lucas.
It's going to be interesting because you've got a world now that's largely in recession, whether we like it or not. The Western world is deeply heading for a very rough time. And you've got China, who seem to be really on a technology push as well. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 2 to 3 years, because I don't see the UK or the US really doing anything groundbreaking in the next couple of years either.
What I find interesting is that their own GPS system is really the only cog missing from the Chinese military machine, because you can't run a military operation these days without having full control of your GPS. You couldn't rely on America's because they'll turn it off, or Europe's or whatever. So I'm thinking, given the amount of military expansion China's undergone, I wonder what this will do to their plans to reacquire Taiwan and move the border in India. I'm just going to keep an eye on things because they seem to be positioning themselves very well, and they're putting rovers on the moon and things. They've got the technology, and it seems to be reliable now, so they can't be underestimated as a global military power anymore.
Yeah, and I think Greggy says, doesn't U-Block support it already? I think they do. I think they do. And Starlink, could that do GPS too? Well, you could work it back the other way. You could work back your position from it, I'm sure, if you can interpret the signals. There's lots of ways of finding your position. GPS is not the only road on the show on the road, whatever that.
You got a sextant,
chronograph.
Yeah.
Get me a chronograph and a sextant, and I'll tell you where you are.
That's all I've been teaching now. I've been learning the children that. I've been learning the children to use long wave radios and knowing the positions and direction finding, plus or minus a bit. But I'm the prep teacher now, really, the prepper.
Gary comes in and sets up an old Yaesu 1000 FT in the corner, puts
FT100,
FT100.
And today, children, we're building a bomb shelter.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we're definitely ranting. Oh, but Louis got something there. What did you just pull out? He always pulled something out, didn't he?
No, it's just this.
Oculus Rift.
Oh, I do want one of those. I do want one. I do.
Not the Rift, the Quest.
The
Quest is the best of both worlds.
Are you finding it worth the Pornhub subscription with it, with the 3D?
Yeah, oh my God. Bruce, you'd be amazed. Even your Parkinson will go nuts with this. No. Funny thing, you can run Android apps on it. So you can run one of those FPV receivers that connects to your Android. So here you go. High def FPV system.
Yeah. And what sort of money do those things go for over there?
Less than the DJIs.
Yeah, you can't buy them in this country.
It's 300 to 400 bucks, Eurobucks.
Eurobucks, okay. One day. All right, with that, it's definitely time to go. I have a meeting in the morning. I need to go to sleep. So I'll see you good people.
Sleep is overrated, Gary. Don't believe what people tell you. Sleep is overrated.
Yes, quite so. Dear viewers, wherever you are in the world, thank you very much. Be safe. Hopefully we're all coming out of this now. We'll enjoy our last couple of years of flying before it's totally banned. And we'll see you again at 2100 GMT next week, when we'll find out exactly what Bruce has done this week. So take care, everyone. Look after yourselves. I have to press 2 buttons now. Here's the first one, and there's the second one. Cheers all. Bye-bye.